So what if Motley Crue had never fired Vince Neil in 1992? What would have happened? Let's talk about it. What's going on, everyone? Christian Duke, Sight Sounds Flavors on YouTube, sightsoundsflavors.com. If at any point in time you like the video, smash that like button. Also, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, leave a comment down below. Chokes me up. Chokes me up, guys. I think that, honestly, if you want my honest opinion, I think that that might have stopped Nirvana. I really do. I really, really do. If they had put out an album in 1991 instead of Decade, like, which is one album, I mean, look what they had done with Dr. Feelgood. Do you know what I mean? Guns N' Roses released the Use Your Illusion albums in 91, right in front of Nirvana's face, and went triple, quadruple, whatever platinum. Same would have happened with Motley. They were on fire. Imagine if they would have topped Dr. Feelgood. Just imagine. I mean, they could have. 91, you know, hair metal was still very much alive. It didn't die till 92. I mean, a year makes a huge difference. Even 92 was kicking around. It was like 93, 94, 95 where it was dead as a doornail. 95, it was dead. Skid Row still put out a record in 96 and went gold. I'm not saying that they would have, you know, sold big into the 90s if grunge had hung around, but in 91 at least, conceivably could have topped Dr. Feelgood. And if that would have happened, if they would have topped Dr. Feelgood, I don't think, I mean, you know, I don't know. It would have been interesting. Everybody wants to say, you know, what could have stopped Kurt Cobain? What could have stopped, you know, those bands, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden? Nothing could have stopped them. That's the answer. Nothing. What could stop Alice in Chains? Nothing. But I think the question is flawed, because if Motley had outsold Dr. Feelgood, if Guns had put out, and they did, Use Your Illusions 1 and 2, and they sold well, Metallica was selling well with the Black Album, very well. I'm not saying that grunge would have been stopped or alternative would have been stopped, but music that we liked would have survived as a top draw, because it didn't. You know, as 92, 93, 94, 95 came on, all of the 80s bands were seeing like declining sales. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't understand the point of Decade of Decadence. To me, it's a throwaway album. You know, it was a live album. Great. It was a best of album. It was really a best of. It wasn't a live album. It was a best of album is what it was. It was a complete throwaway, in my opinion, with the exception of Angela and Primal Scream, which were very good songs, and then the Anarchy in the UK cover, that was pretty good too. But basically, 2 singles and a cover with songs that everybody had heard a gajillion different times, it just, I thought, was weak. And I don't know if Motley was experiencing, you know, the tensions that would lead either to Vince quitting, which we know he didn't quit, or Vince being fired. It is arguable. I don't think so. I don't think that those guys would have held on to the resentment for that long. I think, honestly, they were just being lazy. And that's fine. Listen, they put out a record every 2 years. You know, they did the world tours. They were probably burnt out. There's no question about it. So I'm not throwing the book at them. I'm just saying that, you know, Decade of Decadence was not a good album to put out. You know, especially not 2 years after Dr. Feelgood. And then firing Vince the next year was really stupid as well. So, I mean, you know, and then they continued making stupid decisions, because when they went out with John, it didn't dawn on them that they couldn't sell out big venues. They didn't think to streamline. They just made a lot of bonehead decisions. Anyways, I just think that if they had not fired Vince, if they had kind of felt the room a little bit more, maybe instead of taking like LA Guns out at opening, they could have taken Weezer. You know what I mean? Or so Blind Melon. Who knows? Whatever. You know what I mean? The point is, though, is that maybe they would have read the room a little bit more. I see the Motley Crue thing as such a colossal waste. I mean, honestly, they could have completely rewritten their history had they not fired Vince. You know? I mean, even Vince had a successful solo record. I mean, his solo was a hell of a lot more. It was on the Pauly Shore movie. It was all over MTV. People really dug Vince and Steve Stevens working together. But I mean, come on. If they had not fired him, they would have had this monstrous label, Elektra Records, so gung-ho about them. With Bob Rock behind the glass, they would have pushed that album so hard in 1991, it would have had a reciprocal effect, in my opinion, with labels and the treatment of these quote-unquote hair bands. If Motley was coming out of the gates, and Motley was a lot closer to that 80s look than Guns N' Roses or Metallica, obviously. So if Motley would have come out firing on all cylinders in 1991 with an album selling up there with Dr. Feelgood or more, and these labels would have seen how hard Elektra was behind the record, they would have gotten behind their Warrants and their LA Guns and their Faster Pussycats and said, wait, this party isn't over yet. Look, Motley Crue, they're killing it. And they're not necessarily stopping grunge, but they're paralleling it, and that's good enough for us. We're going to keep, pumping whatever you want to call whatever hair metal was back then. But it didn't happen. And by 94, when they did come out with a record, they might as well have not come out with anything, because no matter how good it was going to be, it was like that MTV interview, bombs, hairspray, and fire that pissed Nikki off so much. But that's how the Crew is perceived, because they fired their singer, and for 2 years they didn't do anything but take pictures that wound up on Hit Parader and Metal Edge. They let the times pass them by. Again, to me, firing Vince Neil was the dumbest thing Motley Crue could have done. And if they hadn't done that, I think it would have had just a completely, just like a completely ironclad effect on that whole era. Like, honestly, like they would have had an undeniable, is what I was looking for, an undeniable impact on the music scene of the 1990s had they not fired Vince Neil. But what say you?